Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to watch episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a hopefully satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they are introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we will only be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And before we start, I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all of this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. The patrons picked this story to be made, and I am truly excited as Christian is one of, if not my, most favorite character of all time. So with that, let's jump into another epic story.
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
Christian Hubicki, a 32-year-old robotic scientist from Tallahassee, Florida, was a castaway on Survivor's 37th season, Survivor David vs. Goliath. By the time he was done playing, fans wanted more. Where did this breath of fresh air come from, and how soon can we have another returnee season so he can be cast for it? That's saying a lot considering how stacked the cast of this season is. So why is Christian Hubicki a beloved player? Let's find out. Survivor David vs. Goliath starts with all 20 players separated on 2 different boats. Christian is the first out of anyone to get a confessional, and he says, "Hi, this may shock you, but I'm the guy wearing a robot t-shirt, and you might have guessed this, but I'm a huge nerd and I accept this about myself."
I've been interested in robots since I was a wee baby child, and everyone here is going to assume that I'm a huge nerd, which is not entirely incorrect. I'm not exactly the kind of guy who cruise by on his good looks throughout life, but now I'm a robotics research scientist, and you might be surprised about what I can pull out.
Both tribes then climb up onto the ship that Jeff Probst is waiting for them on, and right away it is clear that the Goliath tribe is physically more powerful, aside from maybe Pat, who is admittedly overweight. No one on the Davids looks like they can hold a candle to the Goliaths. Angelina of the Goliath tribe says that her tribe is stacked and the Davids look so weak. So Jeff says, let's have some fun with that. We're doing a challenge right here, right now. The Goliaths get to pick their 2 strongest people versus 2 of the Davids' weakest. Mike White, famed filmmaker, picks Christian as one of the weakest, and he says,
"We're gonna go with purple hair and Big Bang Theory."
Christian, that's you. They have chosen the weakest Davids and their strongest from their tribe.
The allegedly weakest Davids. Let's make this clear.
Okay.
The challenge happens, and since the Davids get to pick what task they want to do, it keeps them fairly even with the physically superior Goliaths, until the puzzle. Once they get there, Christian does something that amazes even Jeff Probst.
We're good, right?
Whoa, out of nowhere, David's had the slide puzzle in less than 5 seconds.
That has to be some sort of speed record. Even Spencer Bledsoe would be blown away. The Davids obviously win the reward challenge, and Jeff asked Christian how he pulled that off.
It wasn't really like a fair fight because, like in undergrad, like I wrote slider puzzle solving algorithms, so it's not really it. So I figured we could go that way.
Not great. While I'm not denying anything he is saying, by promoting how smart you are is just putting a big target on your back whether you mean to or not. A real rookie mistake. But then, as both tribes are sent packing to their respective camps, Christian talks about how he really messed up the puzzle and could have done a lot better.
One could say that I slayed Goliath with an algorithmic slingshot, but I just go directly to the things I did wrong, and it's something I need to fix about myself. But I did make a few mistakes when I was moving around the pieces. It could have gone like a second or two fast. It's a matter of the combinations of all the little pieces around it. Like there was like a move, like a left-right piece, has to move around the board in order to get objective external validation that I did it right. Is that good? I think it was good. Maybe it was bad.
This guy is a trip, and I mean that in the best way possible. At camp, the Davids get to work on building a shelter, and Pat is the clear leader on this task since this is the kind of work that he does back home. However, it turns out Pat's style of leadership seems perfect for a men's construction crew and not really a ragtag group of people, as it seems like he is rubbing some of them the wrong way, as Christian clearly observes.
Pat immediately takes lead of the shelter. Pat can be a bit directive at times of what he wants people to do. Christian, where you at? I'll be right over there.
Christian, we need more bamboo.
Right there.
Yeah, we're gonna need a ton more than that.
Oh, sorry, yeah. In engineering and science, there are people with strong personalities who conflict. But man, I don't think I've ever had my name shouted like that in a professional setting. I got the sense that other people felt a little bit bossed around by Pat.
Sweating like a pregnant nun at confession.
I also want to point out, jokes are inherently risky.
Once you see the crack, you never go back.
A joke can fail.
You dirty bitch.
I gave my left nut to be 36.
Oh my gosh.
I think that people were dealing with it and also willing to put up with it as long as we're actually getting a shelter built. If you were not succeeding in the shelter, he would be in real trouble.
Let me tell you, Pat would fit right into the Navy. Anyways, we see Christian make his first real connection with someone else in the game, and that is with Gabby, a fellow nerd.
I feel like Christian and I are kindred spirits. Like, I love that guy. I'm still like feeling everyone out. I like you because you're smart.
You because you're smart. I really like Gabby. I love the level she vibes with. She's nerdy like me. She's somewhat insecure like me. So we get along well. I actually have to hide how well we get along because I don't want it to be sort of a couple threat. A platonic couple threat, of course.
Now, this next moment for Christian actually occurs during Davey giving us his backstory on how he's a black nerd and breaking the stereotypes normally assumed for black people. But during that, Christian asks him,
I'm actually a blurred, which is a black nerd.
You ever play Mario Kart?
Yeah.
But what a stupid question, right?
At the immunity challenge, it is a tight race in the pouring down rain, which by the way hasn't really let up since day one. It's just been pouring and pouring as the Davids go on to lose by mere seconds. So back at camp, something game-changing happens.
You can't see.
It's okay. It's okay.
Looks good.
Nice, slow, deep breath. Right, whereabouts is your pain at the minute? So you're pulling him from the game? I don't think we'll have any choice. We're going to have to get him to the hospital to get the right scans to make sure there's no serious damage.
Pat is medevaced, so Jeff tells them, hey, you guys are Davids. Take this one on the chin, get back up, and fight. That is your MO. Also, no tribal council, which of course is a relief for them. So with that, we come to a close on the premiere of David vs. Goliath, as we see Christian may be the face of the Davids at the moment, and that is saying something considering everyone else on this tribe. He is smart, observant, and not at all prideful, all heroic attributes. He did a great job with the slide puzzle, which is why the Davids won the first reward challenge, though him explaining why he was so good to everyone in the game may have others feeling he's too smart and he needs to go. Christian notices how what Pat was doing was risky and it was rubbing others the wrong way, and it turns out he is right. And he seems to connect really well with everyone we have seen him talk to so far. With this much focus on him, it seems guaranteed that he will go far in the game, barring he keeps his threat level low. Episode 2 sees Christian making another bond, this time with Nick. They create what they call the Mason-Dixon Alliance, since Christian is originally from Virginia and Nick is from Kentucky. This could very well be the next JT and Steven, they say.
I've always felt a connection with Christian. We're like JT and Steven from Survivor Tokenshin. JT was like a country boy from Alabama, and Steven's like a genius.
Team Mason-Dixon. Team Mason-Dixon, all right? What's not fist bump? No. But Team Mason-Dixon, virtual fist bump.
Absolutely no one seems to be disliking Christian so far, which is great. The rest of this episode is fairly quiet for him until the Davids lose immunity, and we hear from him a very, detailed description is what I would say of what their next tribal council will bring.
At least on the surface, our tribe appears to get along well. But suddenly, we have to pick the scab off of all the boiling blood beneath the surface. The question is, how crazy is it gonna be?
Everyone begins their scrambling. Could it be Nick? Multiple people confirmed he was the target if they went to tribal in the last episode. Is it Christian? He is super smart after all. Is it Gabby? She's becoming a hot mess. Nope, it turns out it is Jessica. Down on the beach, Gabby and Christian get to talking, and this seems very out of left field for us and for Christian, as she asks,
Do you want to play with me?
Play with you? On the sand?
Do you want to play this game with me?
When have I ever indicated otherwise?
I know, I want to play with you too.
This will be a reoccurring trend this season as Gabby is insecure and needs reassuring, which Christian will definitely do and do well. We then see how the tribe is divided between Jessica and Lyrsa. Which one should go? They both seem like they would be a challenge liability, which is not something the Davids can afford to have in this game. As it turns out, the Mason-Dixon alliance might be the swing vote, and Christian tells us, you know what? He likes this. He wants to be in the power position and is not afraid to make a decision. At Tribal Council, there are a lot of talks about risk versus reward. Bigger risks can pay off, or they can blow up in the tribe's face, to which Christian says,
There often isn't exhilaration without risk. That's how I see it typically.
How so?
A lot of times that sense that, you know, you're sort of just transcendently in the moment, if it's not something as terrifying as tribal council, you know, it could be like a roller coaster. I mean, if you, in your deepest part of your mind, knew that roller coaster was safe, would you really be as excited? Or is it because that you're convinced in this moment you're falling and you're gonna die that makes it very exciting? That's amazing.
He's so good.
But then it is time. Does Christian and Nick vote for Lyrsa or Jessica? Well, as it turns out, in a 5-4 vote, Jessica is eliminated.
Jessica, tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Was that the right move? Only time will tell. Episode 3 has Davey feeling a little betrayed, but he doesn't take it personally since he sees Nick and Christian as his closest allies. That's also a consistent trend for Davey. He doesn't feel betrayed. He knows what he's playing is just a game. Now, as you may or may not know, the huge muscular guy on the Goliath tribe is John Hennigan, a professional wrestler who goes by the mayor of Slamtown. Apparently, Christian's a big fan because he is talking about him at the Davids camp, just exemplifying his nerdiness even more so than normal.
Clearly, on some level, you know, being invited to Slamtowns means you have been slammed.
You're obsessed.
I love Slamtown.
What are the citizens of Slamtown?
They're the Slamtonians.
Christian is just the sweetest guy, and he's funny. He always cracks jokes, and I feel like we're cut from the same cloth.
Now, this may be just me, but I think Gabby is really into Christian. Now, not so much him being into her, but she's definitely into him. Anyways, at the immunity challenge, it is down to the wire. Christian is placed in the hero spot, so it is on his shoulders to either win or lose. And
The Davids have done it! The Davids win immunity!
ready for a plot twist, episode 4 starts, and immediately it is apparent that Bea injured her knee in the previous challenge, and since injuring it further would affect her job back home, she quits. Just like that, the Davids have lost 3 members and only one of them has been voted out. But then another plot twist happens. Jeff tells everyone to drop their buffs. We are swapping from 2 tribes to 3. A new green tribe will be added, and Christian is now on that tribe with the mayor of Slamtown, Dan, Allison, and Gabby. Every one of these 3 tribes is essentially 3 Goliaths and 2 Davids. What are the odds of this happening? At the new Tiva camp, they are working on building a new shelter from scratch, and Christian is charming everyone's pants off.
John just swings his machete and just sort of smashes through this piece of bamboo. It's like, oh, that's a new thing. That's not how I chop bamboo, but that's really just a stylistic difference. I'm doing whatever I can in order to contribute as much as I can, but at the same time, I have to make sure I'm at the top of my social game. So I gotta go on a charm offensive here, and that's really understating it. I really need sort of like charm nuclear warfare. So Time to bring about the charmpocalypse.
Finally, Christian talks to the George Bushy of Tushy and asks him about the logistics of Slamtown and how he can be a part of it.
So I was mostly curious about the availability of a comptroller position.
Oh, we're constantly fielding interviews.
Okay, all right. So if I submit an application through, you have like a web portal or something that I can.
I mean, I don't have access to it obviously
not right now, of course.
But yeah, Christian is a quirky guy, and I for sure have a ton of quirkiness in me.
While Christian seems to be getting along really well with John and Dan, Gabby is not. In fact, she feels completely on the outs and seemingly lacks the confidence to just integrate herself. It just takes a little confidence and she could easily be in. Christian once again does his best to reassure her.
I find it hard to open up to people like them. Like, they're so intimidating to me.
You know, they have their vulnerabilities too. They just don't like to show it. We're in this together. When I'm at my low, she's strong. When she's at her low, I'm strong.
Now with Christian and Gabby's smarts and the Goliath members' strength, their tribe is nigh unstoppable as they win immunity, and then it happens in episode 5. The big event. It's all been leading up to this. The weather's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And for only the second time in Survivor history, every tribe is evacuated from the game to keep them safe.
This is certainly the craziest season that I can remember. In terms of every single element of this game so far has been fraught with some kind of crazy catastrophe. We're all Davids today. That's the Goliath.
2 days later, they finally get to come back, and the damage done to things such as the trees around their camp show exactly how bad the storm really was. But things are on the up for Tiva as Christian becomes a member of a group you probably would not have considered him for when this season began.
We're also part of the Brochachos at this point.
Brochacho?
Who's the president of the Brochachos? We have to have an election.
And I could be like, you know, head of awesome stuff. The HAS.
HAS.
The HAS. The Haas.
What do we leave Alec as?
Of Haas, you know.
The Haas of the Brochachos.
Yeah, exactly. Like an avocado.
At the immunity challenge, it is a tight one with Christian once again in the make it or break it spot. Winning this is up to him, and does he pull it off?
And he does it! Tiva wins immunity!
Oh my god!
Of course he does. Christian is somewhat of a modern Survivor Challenge beast. His skill set would have not really served him that well in the first 15 or so seasons, but here in season 37, he is golden. We move on to episode 6, where Christian decides to take up a new hobby, spearfishing, and I think this has become abundantly clear so far in this video, but if not, then let me say it. Anything Christian talks about sounds so much more interesting when it comes out of his mouth.
I've never put on a pair of flippers before, I believe. Just every step was a blow to my general self-worth. Just the personal ego agony. And of course the sort of the business end here, the spear. Essentially, you turn this into a spring-loaded murder machine. I couldn't catch any fish. Certainly, I am not a food-seeking missile. So if they're counting on me for large amounts of food, we may be starving to death.
The Tiva tribe goes on to win reward, and with that comes some food that Christian feeds the mayor of Slamtown in an awkward yet funny moment.
There you go. All right, brochachos. We feed each other the way we need to feed each other. That's an experience I have never had before, so it is good.
It's actually a first for me too.
Well, I'll remember this.
Adorable. Brochachos are tight.
We then hear from Christian about how he grew up and his aspirations in life. He says he always wanted to be the cool guy that others wanted to hang out with and talk to, but that has never really been the case before now.
It's an interesting transition happening. Me being this idea of being this cool guy. It's cool to hang out with around camp. I always wanted to be that guy. I'm becoming this Goliath-like figure from these David origins.
I would say he is succeeding in spades. It seems like no one dislikes Christian at all, and why would they? So then, in an almost predictable fashion at this point, we go to the immunity challenge, where once again, it requires Christian coming in clutch, and...
There it is! Tiva wins immunity! Safe again from Tribal Council!
Living on Tiva has basically been paradise for Christian. Everyone likes him, they can't help but win every immunity challenge that comes their way, no problem. But then the big shift of the season takes place. We are now merged, and with that comes the big question. Are the original tribal lines of David and Goliath important or not? Considering the Davids are down 7-6, hopefully not. Christian finally reunites with Nick and new information is being given to him left and right from the former Davids. Namely, Dan has an idol, and we will see this later, but Dan actually finds a second idol as well. Something that has been a non-factor so far in this game, but might come up here soon.
He thinks that Dan has an idol. That is a piece of wood.
But the big question remains, are tribal lines real or not? Well, we learned immediately that Elizabeth, for some reason, of the Davids is target number 1 for Carl and pretty much all the Goliaths aside from Angelina. She says, hold up, why are we targeting Elizabeth? Christian is the biggest threat. Let's get him out now. Now, thankfully for Christian, she's the only one really saying this, as the rest of the Goliaths want Elizabeth gone first. We then see Alec of the Goliaths talking to Christian about creating some sort of cross-tribal alliance, and he just wants to partner up with Christian, which does then evolve into a 6-person alliance consisting of Alec, Mike, Allison, Nick, Gabby, and Christian that he nicknames the Strike Force. However, Angelina may have pushed for Christian earlier to no avail, but she isn't done yet, as she has a second wind and says, hey everyone, seriously, Christian needs to go now. He would easily beat anybody here at Final Tribal.
So why not use this opportunity to blindside the Davids when they think it's going to be Elizabeth? Christian needs to go tonight.
Unfortunately, this time it seems to work, and the Goliaths say, okay, let's get out Christian then. But not so fast. Angelina is not that convincing. So once again, once they're away from her, they decide, you know what? No, we're gonna vote out Elizabeth. We like Christian. So at Tribal Council, Elizabeth is eliminated in a 9-1 vote.
The tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Good luck, you guys. I love you all.
Episode 8 sees Christian talking to Mike, and they both say the Strike Force is good to go to take over the game at a moment's notice. Mike then says that he doesn't really trust Gabby because at the previous Tribal Council, she got really upset with Angelina, and Christian finds this very interesting.
Gabby does get a little emotional at times, but we are solid. Mike has concerns about Gabby in that he was a little worried about Gabby's commitment to the 6. That's a weird thing to say.
We then see what Angelina said in the last episode come to fruition here, as Mike is now turning on the Strike Force. So much for that, and says, yes, you know what? We have to vote him out next. We then hear from the mayor of Slamtown that the Tribal Council will have a brochacho blindside. No doubt about it. Bad news for Christian, and he has no idea it is coming. However, a beacon of hope shines through as Alec holds true to wanting to work cross-tribal as he spills the Goliath's plan to Nick about the upcoming blindside of Christian. So, Nick talks to Davey and says, hey, I know you have an advantage. Is it possible that you could use it to help Christian? Now, Nick doesn't even know what advantage Davey has, and frankly, neither does Christian. As when he hears the news of this blindside coming his way and realizes he has done a terrible job of managing his threat level, it's only the mid game, and he is already target number 1 for so many people. Not great. So at Tribal Council, it's time to vote, and the Goliaths just pour on their votes for Christian, and the Davids put some votes on Angelina, and it all seems over until...
I'm nervous, Jeff, but I'm more nervous for Christian. This is for him.
Okay? We'll play this for Angelina.
Okay?
Oh my God. Oh, did you say who it was for?
Yeah, first vote. Christian does not count. 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 Christian does not count.
God.
Angelina
Thank God.
does not count. Angelina does not count. 9th person voted out and the 2nd member of our jury. John.
A brochacho blindside indeed, as John is voted out in a 3-0 vote.
Love you, John.
Bye,
Good game, John. I still want to be comptroller, if that's okay.
You're in, brother.
Thank you.
What a wild turn of events for Christian. That idol played by Davey negated 7 votes for him and saved his game, but the Davids are still down 6-5. Tribal lines are real and they don't seem to be changing anytime soon. But now in episode 9, the Goliaths say, let's get out Christian again. Surely there isn't another idol that's going to be played for him. None of the Davids have one, and Dan already has the second one.
And then we just go after Christian again.
Yeah.
If you think Christian's still safe, then let's do that. I think that seems like a good plan.
But since Davey played the idol at the previous tribal, it means it is now likely re-hidden somewhere on the island. Christian figures it might be high time to start looking for it, lest it be found by a Goliath, and the Davids are in for certain doom. So he explains,
I try a new strategy for looking for the idol. I call it a breadth-first search. I basically sort of break down the areas into sectors. So I'm working through my sectors and making sure that I'm not spending too much time in any given one. Then I sort of look up and I see blue yarn. That doesn't occur naturally on this island. What is this? What is this? And wouldn't you know it? It's an idol.
This has to be the most creative way ever explained on how to look for an idol, but heck, it works. We then hear from Allison, who says basically the Goliath mindset is that we want to work with the Davids, but it's kind of a fool's errand, so we're just gonna stay Goliath strong. This won't bite us in the butt at all. Kara then seems to be reconsidering this idea, though, as she says maybe it would be best to split votes on Dan and Angelina instead, and Allison says yes to her face, but doesn't mean it. We then see all 6 Goliaths on a raft talking strategy, and it is clear as day to the Davids that any talks of cross-tribal moves was just the Goliaths blowing smoke. So then we have an iconic meeting of the minds as we learn that Nick has a steal vote, Carl has an idol nullifier, and of course Christian has the immunity idol. That 6-5 Goliath advantage is about to be evened out real quick.
The stakes at this vote are extraordinarily high. You could even say they're pivotal. So us Davids have these 3 advantages in my hidden immunity idol that I can use to protect me. The question is, what do we play and when, and how many for this vote? Or none of them at all. In this game, you never know what can go wrong, and we can't screw up this vote.
At Tribal Council, Dan reconfirms what everyone pretty much knows: tribal lines are not blurred. It is still David versus Goliath.
It is now David versus Goliath for sure again.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd rather work with the enemy I know than the enemy I don't know.
Christian then says this game kind of reminds him of an old car that seemingly won't start, but maybe with enough turns of the key, it will. It is time to vote, and Nick steals Allison's vote to give the Davids the 6-5 advantage. So the Davids lay every single one of their votes on Dan, and when it is time to reveal the vote, Dan plays his idol.
This is a hidden immunity idol. And this is the idol nullifier.
Dan's idol is negated, and he is voted out in a 6-3-2 vote.
Dan, tribe has spoken.
We love you. Bye, Dan. Bye, Dan. Dan 5-0.
Episode 10 begins with Angelina telling Christian that those 2 rogue votes for her were from Alec and Kara, who only swapped their votes after they saw Nick steal Allison's vote to appear like they're with the Davids when really they aren't. She swears she isn't a scorned woman, but trust me, she is. After a war challenge, Christian's team wins, and with that, they're surprised with letters from home.
I am writing to my son who has achieved one of his goals, to play the game Survivor. Great job.
Reading these letters really does sort of as motivation for me to say, hey, look, I can win this. It's gonna be hard. I wanna prove now people shouldn't underestimate me, that I'm a force in this game.
At the immunity challenge, it is a tough one, as Alec is determined to win, and after 2 hours, it comes down to just him and Christian. Whoever doesn't win is likely gone next. Christian compliments Alec, so he replies with,
You are a beast, by the way.
You're not gonna win.
Christian then whips out his secret weapon, his ability to talk non-stop, which has him forgetting he is in pain while doing so. Jeff becomes the target of conversation and is totally on board with this, while Alec is super annoyed.
Hey, Jeff.
Yep.
Is it okay if I tell a story to pass the time? Is that all right?
Yeah.
I had to tell people that, look, it's one thing to have a robot. That's the sort of thing we think about, like exoskeleton research.
Oh my God, bro.
Who's up for 20 questions? Do you know what a Reuben sandwich is, Jeff?
It has now been almost 6 hours, and Alec does his best to get Christian to drop, and in an emotional moment, Christian says, no.
You're safe, I'm not.
I know. I know how you must feel in this moment. And I hear you. I might never get this opportunity again.
I'm sorry.
Alec just dropped out. Christian has just won individual immunity. Day 27, individual immunity is yours. You are safe in this game.
What an epic win, and a great way to not lower your threat level at all, right? I know I'm being sarcastic, but who cares? He's already the target at the last 2 tribal councils. Nothing has changed. That necklace is much needed. However, some infighting begins to arise as Carl begins dictating what everyone will do, not having a conversation about it at all. He says, vote Alec, no need to talk about it. It's simple, just do as I say. Gabby doesn't like this, and Christian mediates this very calmly.
What's making Gabby upset is that she doesn't feel like she knew exactly what she was walking into in that conversation. Gabby's one of my closest allies in this game, and so much of my job is making sure that Gabby's happy. But right now, she's quite upset.
I really can't work with him.
I find Carl to be becoming increasingly problematic. He's both an alliance liability and perhaps a personal liability to me at some point, because Carl and Gabby are on a collision course.
At Tribal Council, Christian talks about how everything in Survivor is a risk, a calculated risk to be specific. He apparently makes it sound way smarter than it really is, as we see the 2 brochachos on the jury bench look dazed and confused. However, it is a clean sweep, as Alec is indeed voted out in a 9-1 vote.
Travis spoken.
Damn.
Time for you to go.
Good luck, Alec.
Bye, Alec.
The game is tilted in the Davids' favors. They were down 7-5 at one point, and now they're up 5-4. And then people like Allison look ridiculous for saying, I'm gonna work with the Davids, and then backing out and staying Goliath strong. So back at camp, she is breaking down and Christian comforts her.
Because I've been trying to see this game like from your perspective as well as my own.
Yes.
And I'm excited that I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but that the 2 of us can kind of join brains.
Yes. That's what I always wanted, you know that?
Then what will be a game-defining set of decisions, good or bad, goes into motion. Despite the David's slim one-man lead, Gabby proposes the idea of flipping on Carl, which is clearly way too soon, but they did just fight, and for some reason, Christian's on board with this. We then see Carl telling everyone that we're voting at Allison, but hey, don't tell Gabby, which is strange. Why would Gabby not want to vote for Allison too? And clearly this rift isn't going away anytime soon.
The plan handed down by Godfather Carl. When I was beckoned to his bedside, he tells me, Christian, the vote is Allison. You're leaving Gabby out of it. So that moment was a final data point for me that Carl must go.
Christian then talks to Gabby and says, hey, Carl has this plan to vote at Allison, and for some reason he wants to keep it a secret from you. The idea of voting out Carl seems feasible with some Goliath backing. So we slide into Tribal Council, where Nick compares Survivor to scrambled eggs, and Christian says actually it's more like poached eggs.
You know, perhaps more of a poached egg, is I think would be my analogy. You take a big boiling bowl of water, you drop the egg in, and yeah, there's little pieces swirling around, but eventually they coalesce into one whole, which is presumably the plan that you think is going to go down at Tribal tonight.
Then it happens. With the assistance of Mike, Kara, and Allison, Carl is blindsided in a 5-4 vote that burns the remaining Davids.
Travis spoken. Time for you to go. Go get him.
Bye.
This move seems early and really dumb, like at least one tribal too early dumb, since now it is 4-4 again, and Nick nor Davey were in on this at all. They weren't even given a heads up that it was gonna happen.
Christian and Gabby voted out Carl, and I was blindsided. I don't get it. I mean, those 2, they're so smart, they're dumb.
In fact, episode 11 opens up with Nick just being absolutely livid with Christian, and for good reason after all the work they did to flip the numbers and save Christian multiple times. In a special turn of events, the reward is the loved one's visit, and Christian's girlfriend Emily comes and Gabby says, wow, this is true love.
This is my friend Jeff, my new friend Jeff. I want to introduce you to him. So Jeff is Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Jeff.
Nice to meet you.
And really understands how you're feeling, even before you feel it. You know, that's what.
Gabby then realizes, whoa, the way Christian comforts his girlfriend is how he comforts everyone else in this game, including herself. So now she needs to get him out of this game and play for herself. A real plot twist in a season full of them. She is tired of being viewed as a sidekick.
Christian and I have made nearly every move together, but he's the one perceived as making all the moves. So I need to remove him so that I am free to play my own game.
Christian is blissfully unaware of this and says, yep, time to get out of Allison. There's no reason to do anything else but that. But what he doesn't know is that the Davids are gunning for him, with Nick leading the charge, a very emotional revenge for him. But like Alec before him, Davey defects and secretly tells Christian what is really going on, saying, hey, I have to vote for you, but it's only because everyone else wants to vote for you, which Christian had no idea about. And Davey says also, you might want to talk to Nick, he's really mad with you.
Christian's apologizing profusely to me, saying, he took our relationship for granted, but I don't trust Christian fully anymore. I probably never will. And now I'm gonna manipulate him, because if he's convinced he's got the Mason-Dixon back together, that's just gonna make it that much easier to blindside him.
At Tribal Council, the votes are there once again to eliminate Christian, but as Jeff goes to read them, he plays his idol, and...
I could be wrong, but I'm playing this for myself tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's freaking smart, bro. First vote. Christian does not count. Christian does not count. Christian does not count. Christian does not count.
How'd you get that big brain?
Christian
You're so smart.
does not count. 13th person voted out and the 6th member of our jury.
Oh my
Gabby,
God.
need to bring me your torch. Gabby, tribe has spoken.
He negates 5 votes against him, and Gabby is instead blindsided in a 2-1-0 vote. It is now the penultimate episode, so close to the finale, and all Christian needs to do is get back in good with Nick, and he's likely solid moving forward. However, Nick tricks everyone by pretending to find an idol to stop them from looking, including Christian. Nick tells Davey the truth, and Davey says, wow, maybe Nick is a bigger threat than I initially thought. However, Mike still wants Christian gone, and now for 6 episodes straight, he has been the target. Nick is still on board with getting Christian out, nothing has changed.
And I'm thinking Christian is still the biggest threat to win the game, and so I gotta get the votes to get Christian home tonight.
At Tribal Council, Christian says, please give him a break. He is so tired of being targeted.
You hope that people's perceptions of you change when you realize, hey, I'm willing to work with you. You can stop voting for me, please. I've had enough. I think the record is 19 votes in a given season, and I have 15. That's plenty. Plenty.
But that plea doesn't matter, as he is voted out in a 3-2-0 vote.
Christian, the tribe has spoken.
Good luck to you all. Well played.
So let's break this down. How is Christian Hubicki as a character? Absolutely wonderful. I know I briefly mentioned this before, but Christian is my favorite Survivor character of all time, and every subsequent rewatch of his in this season just reaffirms why. He is charming, smart, has a way with words, and is humble. I also find him hilarious and can't help but have a smile on my face when he talks. Now, I don't normally break outside the Survivor TV show barrier when summing up a person in their video, but I need to mention that he has done many 3 and even 4-hour podcasts, and I find them all a joy to listen to from start to finish, and I am not the kind of person to listen to those kinds of podcasts from start to finish. They're overly long in my opinion, but with him, they don't feel like that. His humility is refreshing, especially with how great of a guy he is, and it shows, as pretty much no one has a bad word to say about him all season until Nick feels betrayed about the Carl vote. Christian is just a great guy with a lot of quirks that we have never seen from anyone who's played Survivor before him, and frankly, I don't know if we ever will see again. Bring him back again and again, please. Out of 27 character moments shown on the show, 26 were heroic and 1 were villainous, making Christian Hubicki a hero character in Survivor David vs. Goliath. Now, how is Christian Hubicki as a strategist? As I mentioned before, he is uber smart. From the time we see him lay the smackdown on that slide puzzle, to him explaining how he learned algorithms, to him then saying how he could have done it faster despite setting probably a Survivor speed record, there is no doubt that Christian is beyond smart. However, he never made any attempt to hide this, and right away everyone saw him as a threat. Thankfully, it never manifested itself in the pre-merge, as he only attended 1 tribal council due to medevacs, quits, and his own challenge dominance. But when the merge came, it was like the Goliaths were just chomping at the bit to get him out, and for good reason. Christian in the final tribal beats anyone and everyone in the season hands down. In fact, in other seasons, he probably beats those people too. That's how charming he was. He's a humble man who seemed impossible to hate and was smart, the perfect mix for a great Survivor winner. So what happened was a constant targeting of him, where he received a record for any male in the history of Survivor who has played, with 18 votes against him. He had a lot of exciting close calls, but it eventually caught up to him when he foolishly went after Carl too soon and burned his own David's tribe as a result. Out of 42 strategic moments shown on the show, 28 were smart and 14 were dumb, making Christian Hubicki a smart strategist on Survivor, David vs. Goliath. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.